Sometimes when you're playing a game of Football Manager, you want to change your tactic around. And then when you go to your bench, oh my goodness, you can't find somebody who can play in multiple positions. Yes, these are players I like to call utility players. Players who can come off the bench, they can play in multiple positions in different roles sometimes, and they can play these reasonably well. And to top it all off, you don't want them costing you $60 million. You want them to cost you less than 10. So today's show, we're going to focus on some of the best utility players you can find in the game of Football Manager that don't cost you that much money. My name is Daljit. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the channel. This is the place you'll find me doing content on the game Football Manager. I also stream 3 times a week on another channel called Daljit's Moments. You can find the details there. You'll find me streaming some long-term saves. I do countdown challenges, do basically lots of crazy little things. On Wednesdays, you can bring in your tactics for a show I like to call Bring Your Tactics, where we give you a tactic the once over. Sometimes these are great tactics, and sometimes they just need a little tweak. On Tuesdays, over on Twitch, I do draft modes. Yes, it's a chance for us to get together and play the game of Football Manager. It's a lot of fun. You should join me sometimes. One of the first things I do when I play the game of Football Manager is I look for players who can play multiple positions within my own team. What are these? Utility players. Essentially, these are players that can play in more than one position, and they can usually do this job reasonably well. A very good example of a utility player in the game of Football Manager right now that's very popular with a lot of people is James Milner. You can play him in midfield, you can play him as a fullback, you can even play him high up the pitch. He has the attributes, although yes, he's 36 years old and probably you can only get maybe 1 or 2 seasons out of him. He makes for a very good example of a utility player. So I decided, hey, a shout out to the community would be good to see what everybody else considers to be their favorite utility players, and we got quite a few responses. So I put together this list from the community. I knocked off all the guys who are more than 10 million because we want to keep this like a budget utility list, because you'll be amazed at the kind of players you can find. So here we go. I'm keeping my recommendation towards the end. Let's go and take a look at who these players are. In no particular order, we're going to start with a player who began his football career over in China. His name is Jans Michel Cayuste. I hope it's pronounced his name correctly. This is a young player who can play in multiple positions. He actually started his career with Chinese Sport Beijing. Now, if you look at his attributes, this 22-year-old has already been capped a few times by the national side. Now, looking at his positions, this is a player that can play in multiple positions, generally over on the right side of the pitch. He is what we would call a utility player. Now, a utility player, when you see a utility player with the option to play on the left wing or the right wing, you always want to make sure that he can play with both feet. You want to make sure that his non-dominant foot is at least reasonable, because if it's weak, then you might be limited with some of the tactical things that you can do. So here we've got this player. He's not too expensive. He's less than 10 million. He's got a bit of aggression. If I wanted to use this player, I'll be looking at his attributes and going, well, he's not bad. He's young. He's definitely got room to grow. He is a player that we can play as a box-to-box midfielder, a Carrillo. We can play him as a Mazzala. He has some flair for the job. He can bring the ball forward. His positioning is a bit weak. I probably wouldn't play him as a defend duty, because if I wanted to depend on him, well, we could have some issues. But the good thing about this kind of a player is that you can play him in a few positions should the need arise. Now, I would say he's not a bad option that was recommended from the community. Next, we've got young Isaac Bergman. I got loads of messages on Twitter about him. Now, when I'm looking at him, he's fantastic. He's probably got loads of potential. He's more of an attacking option. So if I wanted to use a player like him, I'm looking at him as a winger, potentially attacking midfielder, a roaming playmaker, maybe even a deep-lying playmaker. The one thing, this is his weakness, is you got to work on his other foot. The second thing, definitely work on his strength so that he's able to hold off challenges, because his balance is relatively low. If I'm looking at him as a utility player, only in the attacking area of the game would he be considered. Generally, though, he's a recommendation that will take some time to develop into a really good utility player. Next, we've got a Dutch player called Joris van Overeem. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. This is a player that's very interesting because he's attributes indicate that while he can play in multiple positions and he can play as his roles can range from ball-winning midfielder to a deep line playmaker, we gotta understand what his weaknesses are. His positioning is not so good. Although he's got great mentals, his positioning is relatively weak. So if I wanted to play him as a defend duty, I'd be very, very concerned. However, as a box-to-box player, as a Carrerelo, he makes for an excellent player that you can bring off the bench, who can play in multiple positions. He can be pushed out to the wings as a very basic defensive winger. He can be played as a wide midfielder. He can definitely be played as a ball-winning midfielder on support duty that can be positioned slightly higher up the pitch. When I'm looking at a utility player, I like to think of certain positions. I like to have a player that can play as a central defender, or a DM, or a central midfielder. Sometimes looking at a central midfielder or a attacking midfielder, or somebody who can be pushed out wide onto the wings. And the next player is such a player. His name is Christoph Baumgartner. He's an Austrian that is a very fantastic option if you want to create a formation and you're seeking to go from a 4-2-3-1 to maybe a 4-3-3 and you want to move the guy in the center out to the wings. Christoph Baumgartner is such a player because this is a player who's got phenomenal off-the-ball movement. He's very intelligent. He likes to go in hard on challenges as well because he's got aggression. He loves to move into the channels. This is great for roles that want to be playing in the half spaces or further out wide. He can be played as an advanced playmaker. He can be played as a shadow striker. He can be played as an inside forward. He can be played as an advanced playmaker. This is a player that can play in multiple positions across the attacking tiers of the pitch. He makes for a fantastic choice to come off the bench in case you want to switch formations or you're looking for somebody to be played in a new role. Now, I rate this as a very attacking utility player that's going to give me loads of options if I want to change tactics. Next, we've got Slavia Prague's Lukas Masopoulos, who is absolutely scintillating as a utility player. Just take a look at the number of positions he can play. He can be played as a winger. He can be played as a fullback. In a pinch, maybe you can even play him as a defensive midfielder or a central midfielder. There is no doubt in my mind that he can be played in a lot of positions across the park. And he's got fantastic crossing. He's got phenomenal dribbling. He's got acceleration. He doesn't lose the ball because he's got agility and balance to top it off. His passing is excellent. He's got phenomenal flair. This is a player that can unlock defenses from a lot of positions across the pitch. His only weakness is his low composure, which is not a big deal. This is a fantastic utility player who's got bundles of acceleration as well. At the age of 28 years old, he could be the next James Milner, or he could even be a better version of James Milner. Next, we've got a 30-year-old Marvin Knoll, who can be played as a defensive midfielder, a ball-winning midfielder. He can be played in the DM position or the central midfield position. I probably wouldn't use him as a central defender, but definitely I would consider him as a wide central back because he has the ability to cross the ball. Now, he's got passing, decent vision. His decision making is okay. And this player has the mental attributes and the fortitude to play, right? Because he can read the game. He's got enough concentration and composure not to lose the ball under pressure. Definitely an option from the back as a ball-playing defender, or, you could use him high up the pitch. Next, we've got the fantastic Morten Torsby. He's a model professional, 25 years old. You can pick him up from Sampdoria. He's got fantastic mental attributes, but check this out. He's got very good off the ball and positioning and tackling. He reads the game, he knows where to stand, and he's got jumping reach and heading 16-16 in the middle of the park. Put him there and you probably will be winning a lot of second balls. He is definitely a phenomenal utility player that can be played in the center of the park or out wider in multiple roles. Whenever you're playing a back five system, the challenge is, what do you do with the extra defender if you want to change to a back four? Having the capacity to play as a central midfielder is always going to be a plus because it gives you options. When you look at Necip Uysal, the Turkish player, this is one of those options that you can get in central defense. Next, we come to my favorite utility player in the game of Football Manager. He's been my go-to player since FM16. He's one of the first players I signed when I'm thinking, okay, I need a player who can play as a DM, an MC, and AMC. Yes, he can play in 3 positions across the park. His name, Danilo Cataldi. And if we look at his attributes, you can probably understand why he's my favorite. One of the things I love about Cataldi is his mentals. His mentals are fantastic. He knows how to go in for the challenge. He's aggressive. He can be played as a DM. He can be played in the MC slot. He can be played as an AMC. And he can do a lot of roles in central midfield equally well. He can be played as a Segundo Volante as a DM, or he can be played as a Mazzala because he's got the flair off the ball, positioning, passing, tackling. He's got vision, decision making. On top of that, and this is what I love about him, he is a set piece taker. He can take corners for me, or he can take free kicks. This is a player who scored plenty of goals for me, and if I play him as a box-to-box midfielder, he likes to come in late to score with long shots. In my countdown challenge save, we've been using him in multiple positions, and he has been delivering match after match. He scores goals from all over the pitch. He can arrive late into the box to score a goal. I can depend on him to score from set pieces. He can deliver those corners. He makes more key passes than I can count. And I got him for less than 6 million. I'm sure I haven't covered every single player, and you probably have recommendations of your own. So let me know in the comments below what you thought of these players and whether you have any other players you want to recommend. Well, I received loads of recommendations. Some of them weren't included in the list because they were expensive at the start of the game. Players like Denzel Dumfries is a very good option as well. However, you always want to add these players to a short list of utility players in your own save because you never know when they'll be available on a free. You might want to sign them. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show and found it useful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And please stay safe and healthy. I'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye.